Macho John Madden, Juanito, they call me in Mexico. I want to talk about open heart and solid boundaries. I learned that dialectic from Brene Brown, who I think still has the TED Talk with the most hits of all time with her talk on shame. She's a brilliant social science researcher. And she says that in her social science research, they have found that the quality that's most correlated with emotional health and happiness is something that they label as open-heartedness. That was easy for me to accept. I felt for years that opening my heart was really the primary work I had to do on this planet. But they said that the quality that correlates most with that is something that they name solid boundaries. The ability to say no, to set limits. Now that's tougher for us nice people, nice middle class folks I've always been a cheerleader and affirmer. Yes, you can do it. Good, you're doing great. And that's still 90% of what I do with people. The toughness did come harder for me, and I think it does for a lot of people. But it's intuitively logical that, and it is my own experience, that if you know that in a pinch you can draw the line when somebody's encroaching on your boundaries, then it's easier to open your heart. So in fact, over the last few years of working with this dialectic, I've gotten more loving and extraordinarily more tough. I shock myself sometimes and surprise my friends. And in the same time period, I've opened up a channel for intuitive guidance. I call it the Voice for God. That guides me in things large and small. So I have completely, pretty much 99% let go of need for approval or anybody else guiding me. I don't go to workshops anymore. I'm a PhD psychologist, and I used to do every personal growth or spiritual growth workshop around. I don't do them anymore. And anybody who deals with me very much at some point hears me say, don't tell me what to do. If I want your advice, I'll ask for it. And that's actually a core principle of Gestalt therapy, is no unsolicited advice. That giving advice that hasn't been asked for tends to be a toxic process pretty consistently across cultures. But I've said it a lot. Don't tell me what to do. Well, if I want input about diet, I might ask you, but I don't, and I haven't asked. So keep it to yourself. So I've gotten pretty tough. I am living a laboratory in the balance of those two right now in the little humble pueblo of Acoma, where I've been for 3 months, and 2 months in this little tiny house where I'm living right now. And it's at the northern edge of the pueblo, an area that just got carved out of the jungle 8 years ago and is kind of wild. And each side street, each of the 4 gravel side streets, is a neighborhood, and people call it a barrio. This is our barrio here. And the dogs, and in Acoma, 90% of the dogs run free in the whole pueblo. And the dogs on our street run as a pack. They all get along. I'm not aware of ever there being a fight among the maybe 10 dogs who run free on this block. But intruders hear about it. Not violently, but barking. Hey, get off of our turf. In Acoma, as in so much of Mexico, aside from some big cities, dogs don't get touched. They are well fed in this town. I've seen minimum of scrawny, underfed dogs. So people are feeding them, but people don't touch them. And I'm an enormous lover of dogs, and I love to pet them and give them massage. And I've had some dogs that, in that kind of setting, have turned into spectacular dogs. Now, I haven't had a dog for a year and a half. I lost my dogs. I had two dogs that I lost very tragically about a year and a half ago. And I arrived in El Diamante, Veracruz State, 2 hours north of the port of Veracruz, pretty crushed with trauma from the way I lost those two dogs. And without my intending it, 3 really, really fine street dogs adopted me when they discovered they got petting from me. They became incredibly loyal. They all slept under my camper van and we went for long walks. It was wonderful. I was never aware of a downside of that arrangement, except that I don't know what happened when I left. My car was being repaired for 3 months, and when it finally was road ready, I left and they just lost me. I'm sure they adapted, but I bet they might have been a process for them to adapt. Now, what's going on here? I assumed that the 3 dogs that especially moved towards me would come and get love from me and some kibble, croquetas, and stay with the pack and spend half of their time elsewhere. Well, that's not what's happened. These 3 dogs camp out here, and I finally decided to let them into the house, which I had resisted at first. They loved it. I loved it. To watch the way their hearts leap up at being loved it's my mission in the world, is to give love and to watch people bloom in response to it. Now, I didn't want to be upset the dynamic equilibrium, the ecological balance in this neighborhood. But I've been reassured that in so many ways they remain very much a part of the pack. They charge down the road together. They play with the other dogs. It hadn't seemed like that was happening, except that several other dogs, even if I give them kibble, it doesn't satisfy them. They want petting. Or there are a couple of them that don't even want petting. They want in. They see the clubhouse. They see the 3 dogs who can have a shelter, which the rest of them never have, and I bet these 3 never had. So I end up spending a lot of my time guarding the door and negotiating. None of them are bite risk. None of them are aggressive. But I'm constantly saying, no, you're not allowed in here, champ. You're not allowed in here, Beulah. Fang, I don't know if any of these dogs have names from other people. I think a couple of them do, but I've given them all those names. Then 3 days ago, my landlord kind of laid the law down. He said, he's a great guy, and we're really, really good friends. But he said, I don't want them in the house at night. I'll build a shelter if you want it outside for them. But when I do that, I'd like you to stop letting them in the house at night. Day is okay. And then a second thing happened that really threw me a curveball. I was traveling for 4.5 years, and I've been so happy to nest in Akumal here and in my nice little house. 3 days ago, I realized you can't stay here. There's not enough of a market. You have to bring in more income, and you want to offer some of the coaching products you developed over the course of your life, really. Interventions to help people get happier and healthier. You need to do that, but not in this pueblo. It's tiny, 90% Spanish speaking. You've been trying to recruit an interpreter, but really you need to work with English speaking people for most of this. Tulum, just a little bit to the south, is a burgeoning, very exciting town, being written up in not a lot of American newspapers as one of the places to go in Mexico. And it's a place that makes me really happy. And there's a lot of expats, a lot of wealth, a lot of affluence, a lot of English speaking, a lot of really, really interesting people. And it was like in the middle of the night, 2 nights ago, I went, you can't stay here. You're not going to make money here. You had a dream that you could offer through the community center, but they're dragging their feet, and they really obviously are uncomfortable with a non-Pueblo member offering, even though I live here now. it's not going to happen there. So I got to go. So suddenly I need to not let them get too dependent on me. I need to do everything possible to keep them very much a part of the pack. So the last 2 nights they weren't allowed in here. It was easy the last 2 nights because there was a moment where they went charging down the road with the rest of the pack. I just closed the door and it was done. That didn't happen tonight, and I had to basically push them out and close the door, and it broke my heart. The last 2 mornings, they've been waiting on the hearth, just waiting for me. So solid boundaries, the loving thing is to have solid boundaries. Out of love for them, I need to not let them become even more identified with me and dependent on me. Oh, it's hard work. Tonight it's feeling heavy. It's feeling like really hard work, but the right work. It's what I got to do for me and for them. Send me strength, huh? Okay, thanks.